Good morning, Chair Volendroff, members, home, staff, and guests. The lobbies are open and the recording has begun.
Good morning. Thank you, Gretchen. I'll now convene the Washington State Liquor and Cannabis Board Caucus meeting for Tuesday, December 2nd. We have a fairly straightforward agenda with presentations from our rules team and then a particular rules petition. But before we do that, I'll look at the first item on the agenda, which is approval of meeting minutes. So do I have a motion to approve the meeting minutes as listed on the agenda?
Yes, this is Pete. I move to approve the meeting minutes as listed on the agenda.
Thank you. I concur. So that is moved. I'll also acknowledge that board member Garrett is away on leave today. So it's just board member Holmes and myself. And we will jump into our first agenda item, which is our policy and rules team update. And so, Kevin, I will turn it over to you for general updates first.
Good morning, Chair Volendroff and Board Member Holmes. The rules team, good morning. The rules team continues to be quite busy as we approach the holiday season and the end of the year. We currently have 12 open rules projects at various stages in the process, and things are generally moving along as expected and on track. Most recently, we held a stakeholder session to get feedback on the draft rules for contract kitchens for spirits, beer, and wine restaurants, implementing engrossed House Bill 1602. As anticipated, there weren't too many questions because the statutory language we're implementing is pretty clear on this one. Nonetheless, the questions we did receive will inform a revised draft that we plan to share by the end of the year or shortly thereafter. We likely won't need to do another round of stakeholder sessions for this one, but we'll give folks ample time to comment on the revised draft rules before we proceed to the CR 102 phase, tentatively scheduled for February. Last month, we also held public stakeholder sessions on the Cannabis Retail Management Agreements rulemaking, implementing engrossed Senate Bill 5403, and they were very well attended. Since that time, we've received a tremendous amount of feedback, with the Washington Association of Cannabis Licensees members submitting over 70 letters, largely supporting the draft rules. We've also received feedback from the Washington Cannabis Association, or WACA, indicating general support, but some significant concerns. And we've also received a smattering of comments, both in favor of and critical of the draft rules from other stakeholders within the industry. We are currently working to publish a revised draft in the coming weeks, and will likely announce another round of stakeholder sessions in January. As previously signaled, we anticipate that this will take some time to work through a number of issues where there is a substantial gap in opinion before we can propose and adopt final rules, but we're doing our best to move quickly while also striking the right balance, and we still expect to have final rules in place this spring.
Great.
Our internal cannabis R&D testing and samples rulemaking project team just met yesterday, and we're working to get a draft out to stakeholders for this project sometime in January, followed shortly thereafter by a stakeholder session announcement. We've continued to hear from labs, licensees, industry associations, and partner agencies, including the Department of Health and the Washington State Department of Agriculture in our CLASP meetings, who are eager for us to more definitively clarify in rule what is and what is not required to be reported in the CCRS traceability system. So this will require us to address definitions and potentially a number of ancillary issues that could impact several WAC chapters. Moving on to the Cannabis Retailer Advertising Engrossed Senate Bill 5206 rulemaking project. We'll be sharing a stakeholder draft imminently, along with an announcement for a stakeholder feedback session tentatively scheduled for Friday, December 19th from 10 a.m. to noon. Then we've got the retail alcohol product placement rules that we've been working on. We'll be meeting with a coalition of industry representatives on Friday to discuss remaining concerns that they have with our latest round of draft rules. Some of the things that they're most concerned with are creating a carve out for stores that have and enforce a 21 and up policy, the definitions and size of mini bottles, and further reducing the ambiguity surrounding what constitutes youth-oriented. We also plan to meet with Sazerac, the maker of buzz balls, among other products that could be impacted by this rulemaking, a couple of weeks later. Following these meetings, we plan to finalize any further draft revisions and then initiate a cost-benefit analysis to address economic impact concerns expressed by many stakeholders before we move to the CR 102 phase. The economic analysis will likely require industry surveys and accordingly is expected to take about 3 months. So we're looking at late spring or early summer before we have final rules in place. And last but not least, we have the expanded alcohol service areas rulemaking implementing second substitute House Bill 1515. The rules team and representatives from licensing and E&E were panelists on a recent webinar hosted by the Washington Hospitality Association to provide information on how members can take advantage of the new allowances under the proposed rules, and it went really well. I believe there were around 100 Hospitality Association members present, and we were able to provide answers to some really good questions that they had, as well as encourage them to provide any feedback they may have on our proposed rules. And speaking of which, we'll be holding a public hearing on Thursday, December 11th on these proposed rules. And assuming no substantive changes are necessary in response to the written public comment or verbal testimony at the hearing, we'll be positioned to file the CR 103 following January's board meeting. Then, of course, waiting for us in 2026 are several cannabis rulemaking projects that will begin resuming as capacity allows, including extending the COA expiration date, cannabis transportation, cannabis heavy metals testing, cannabis batch tracking, and cannabis harvest dates on labels. Other than that, the rules team has continued to collaborate with the research group as they have been conducting user testing on the rules dashboard that we spoke of at the last board meeting. And the feedback has been resoundingly positive. The research team is making a few last little tweaks here and there in response to the feedback that we're getting, and we're well on track to go live by the end of the year.
Oh, good.
So I think that pretty much covers it for now. I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Great, thank you. Thanks for the comprehensive update. And no, you answered. I was going to ask about for an update on the dashboard, and you closed out with an update there. So I appreciate that. Sounds like you guys are as busy as usual, and you know, right before we go into another legislative session. So you'll continue. I anticipate you'll continue to be busy throughout 2026 as well. Board Member Holmes, any questions or comments?
No questions, but thank you, Kevin, for managing that big workload.
Yes, I agree.
Thank you.
All right, Kevin, thank you. All right, we will now transition to our last agenda item, which is a rules petition review and consideration of qualified remnants access to social equity. And we've got Daniel Jacobs who will present this morning. So thank you, Daniel. I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Chair Volendroff, and good morning, Chair and Member Holmes. I'm going to preview the petition for rulemaking on the social equity and cannabis program that I will be presenting a recommendation on during tomorrow's board meeting on behalf of the Director's Office. The Director's Office is going to recommend denying the petition because existing rules do not expressly prohibit the contractor from using previous application materials during future eligibility periods. The petitioner's proposal would require additional funding that would need to be allocated by the legislature, and a change in how future rounds of social equity applications are conducted is something that's best determined by the legislature. On November 6th, the LCB received a petition for rulemaking from Ash Shoden on behalf of Grown Folks 502 LLC, requesting the creation of a new rule and framework to provide social equity licenses to individuals that the petitioners called qualified remnants. These are folks who appear to meet statutory requirements to qualify as social equity applicants, but were ultimately not selected by the social equity contractor as described in WAC 314-55-570. There are multiple prongs or parts of the petitioner's proposal, but basically the petitioner is proposing that the LCB identify and formally recognize these qualified remnants, create a registry of these people, issue them a certificate that confirms their status as qualified remnants, direct social equity licenses that are open due to revocation, surrender, or cancellation, direct those licenses to these folks before opening up a formal social equity licensing window. And lastly, to engage in affirmative outreach to these qualified remnants from both the first round of social equity licensing per 2870 and the more recent round per 5080. As I will explain in more detail tomorrow, there's nothing in rule that stops the social equity contractor from saving someone's application materials from prior rounds and allowing them to sort of just reuse those materials. Because one of the main concerns brought up by the petitioner is the redundancy in time and effort that folks who've already applied need to take to submit all these materials again. Another of the petitioner's proposal, which is engagement with these qualified remnants during future rulemaking, is already sort of built into our process. Any future rulemaking on the social equity program will undoubtedly include opportunities for these qualified remnants to participate and engage with the process and provide feedback. Other elements, as I mentioned, would require additional funding for IT infrastructure and funding that we don't currently have sitting aside, especially in light of the state's budgetary situation. So in order to, for example, create a whole new registry, we would need to have funds allocated to us by the legislature. Additionally, as I'll go into more detail on tomorrow, there are some technical questions about how the LCB would go about issuing licenses to folks in the social equity program without formally going through several of the steps required by the social equity and cannabis program rule. And that sort of gets to the most important part, which is that this proposal would be a change in how we conduct the social equity program and how we choose who gets the licenses. And given that the legislature has demonstrated their substantial interest in this process, we think that ultimately this is the decision that's best left to the legislature. So if the legislature decides that they think this is a great idea and they want to consider a bill that contains the elements of this proposal, the LCB will engage in, analysis of that bill as we do with any other bill that affects the LCB. And then also additionally, accepting the petitioner's proposal would require additional funding and IT infrastructure on our part. As such, the director's office is going to be recommending during tomorrow's meeting to deny the petition for rulemaking on the social equity and cannabis program. Thank you. I'm happy to answer any questions. And if I can't, I can try and find the answer for tomorrow's presentation.
Thank you, Daniel. Appreciate that. Member Holmes, any questions?
No questions. Thank you, Daniel.
Yeah, I have no questions either. I will make a couple of comments, and that is that I watched the YouTube video that was part of this petition. I think that I at this point am inclined to accept the recommendation of the director's office as an individual board member, but I do appreciate the process, and this is the process when somebody puts forward an idea like this to come to the LCB, and we would, in this situation, it looks like recommend that they approach the legislature. And that I do think that this is a good conversation to have and that the legislature is the right place to take that. So appreciate the update this morning, and we'll take it up for a vote tomorrow at the board meeting. Daniel, anything else to add?
Sure. I did just want to clarify that I don't think I'm in a position to recommend that they go to the legislature per se, just because I don't want to speak on behalf of the director's office and be potentially seen as making a recommendation. But I think what I was saying was that this seems to be more of a proposal that's better in a bill. And if it came to us in a bill, we would do our bill analysis process. But I don't know that I could say like, hey, director's office is recommending that this is what this person should do.
Thanks for that clarification. As a board member, I'll take the responsibility and recommend that they connect with the legislature.
I was going to say, if you want to do that, that's fine. I just want to make sure that it's like, I don't want someone being like, what did Daniel recommend? I'm like, nah, that's not exactly what I said. So I just want to sort of give that. All right. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Okay. We'll see you tomorrow then. All right, that concludes the final formal items on the agenda. Last item is board member and executive assistant reports. So Member Holmes, anything to report today?
No, other than I am a grandfather now as of Thanksgiving Day.
All
I'll
right.
just say that, right?
Well, congratulations to you and your family.
Thank you very much.
First grandchild?
Yes, indeed.
Nice.
Very first.
Well,
So,
congratulations. All right.
thanks, sir.
Any thing from Deb or Gretchen this morning?
Nothing today, Chair. Thank you.
All right. Well, with that, I will adjourn the board caucus meeting for Tuesday, December 2nd. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.